I'm going to read a brief statement here about how we operate public forum. The ISD 318 School Board shall provide specific period of time where persons may address the school board on any topic subject to the limitations of Policy 206. All individual comments shall be less than 5 minutes. Any group of 5 or more persons must appoint one person to present the group's views to the board. Depending on the number of persons present, the school board chair reserves the right to set further time limits to allow participation within the allocated time. The board shall not allow negative comments in public session about individual employees or students. Specific factual information or recitation of existing policy may be furnished in response to inquiries, but the board shall not deliberate or decide regarding any issue that's not included on the agenda posted with the notice of the meeting. If there are more requests than time available, priority will be given to persons that reside within the Grand Rapids Big Fork School District. Looks like we have 2 on here. Carol, you're listed first.
Good evening. So tonight I come to you to celebrate these students that are with me tonight. So we are just wrapping up. We have science MCAs coming up, and I am a language arts teacher. So we finished up with reading MCAs, and these students can attest that we work really hard all year on that. And we do STAR testing throughout the year to kind of have a feel on where we're going to be with that. And then we do MCA testing. And so these are 3 of 5 of my most valuable students. So what I did is I had a chair in my room, and it had a reserve for the most valuable student. I didn't tell them what that was going to be or where that was going to come from. And after MCAs, I think it was last week, ladies, was it last week we talked about this? Each class, all students got their scores, and out of each class, we had a most valuable student. So I had 5. I had 2 that were not here tonight, Josh Olson and Kyson Jones. So I had those 2 students as well, most valuable students. But I do want to recognize these ladies here. And I wanted just to spend this time, not to talk about anything else, but other than celebrating students. So it is Teacher Appreciation Week. So thank you to all the teachers out there watching. But we are here. If it weren't for students, we wouldn't be here. And this is why we do what we do. And so first, I would like to acknowledge Ruby Larson. So Ruby went up 10 points on her MCA. So we can see the preliminary results. We don't see them officially until fall, but Ruby went up 10 points, which is awesome. And really she's focused, and she also got to benefit from the special chair today. So Ruby, is there anything you want to say? Probably not. No, I figured probably not. The next student I would like to discuss is Peyton Dowell. So Peyton went up 6 points. In her MCAs this year. She's a leader in her class. She works really hard. And she would have gotten to use the chair today, but Peyton is on her way from here to the jazz thing tonight, I believe, at the high school. Peyton, is there anything you would like to share? Nope. Nope. They do talk more in class than they are doing right now. And then finally is Lola Ninsel, and Lola went up 21 points and a level on her MCA test. So she not only went up 21 points, but she went up a level, which is huge. And if you're not into the testing world like I am, that's a really big deal. And I kind of treat that as my Super Bowl. And they can tell you that it's a really big deal, right, girls? Is there anything you want to say, Lola? So anyway, I just want to thank you for supporting our students. And I want to thank the teachers that are out there. Our students are working really hard. And these students just needed to be recognized. So that's it. Thank you. I don't know if you do.
Congratulations, ladies. That's
Yes,
awesome.
congratulations. And
Outstanding job.
Thank you for the leadership.
Amazing. Okay.
Thank you, Carol. Next on the list of public input, Sean Linder.
Thank you, Superintendent Gross and the school board, for hearing my comments tonight.
Just wanted to give you a quick update on our state convention from 2 weekends ago. Normally, I guess I don't come out and toot our own horn, but we had a couple people kind of encourage me to do so. So that's why I'm here. So, yeah, we had a great state convention. We brought 32 members down to Minneapolis, St. Paul. We used both the St. Paul and Minneapolis campuses for the state FFA convention, and we had some pretty successful results from our career development and leadership development events. And I just wanted to recognize them tonight. Our forestry team won another championship. I think this is our 10th one in the past 21 years. But Alfred Nikas led the team with a first place individual. Emma Brayford was second individual, and Kai Grossman was third individual, and then Braden Shaw came in at ninth. So we swept the podium, which is extremely difficult to do. So that was fun to watch. That pretty experienced team. We lost by 5 points to Park Rapids last year at this time as a brand new team. So we were, ready to go this time, and that should bode pretty well as we go into nationals in October for that. Our wildlife team also placed first. Isaac Palachek was the top individual in that contest, and Emily Sonder and Ben Harker tied for fifth. Emily won the tiebreaker, and then Sam Connolly came in at 40th something. So great job with them too. Horse judging was a runner-up team with Ava Peters coming in at fourth individual in the state. Addison Cushel was seventh, and then we had Savannah Monacan and Ruby Roberts also placed easily in the top quarter. So they all did a great job there. Our parliamentary procedure team, which is a contest that that I took a while to decide whether or not I wanted to invest that time into that. It's a very involved contest, and about 6 or 7 years ago, I said, I had having the parliamentary knowledge that I do from my home chapter in Battle Lake back in the day. We had some successful parliamentary procedure teams. I just felt like I was leading some things on the table there, and so we decided to start doing those competitions again. And I found out that there was a little bit of a learning curve over the span of 20 some years that I hadn't been doing that contest. And once we kind of figured that out, we've started to develop some pretty good traction there. And this year we're in the finals again, so you got to make through a preliminary round where you got to be your top two teams in a pool of 6, and there's 3 of those pools, and then the top 2 teams from each of the 3 pools meet in the finals. And so we end up in the finals. We placed third place in a pretty tight race. There was a 14 points divide in the top 3 teams, so I was really, really close. So but the members of that team were our chairperson Emma Brayford, Tori Gunderson, Kaya Grossman, Ava Peters, Dayton Landy, and Isaac Palachek. And then I also want to recognize Chris Schaefer, who was our Creed speaker that placed the highest that we've placed in that competition as a runner-up. And surprise, this morning we had an email come across that one of the person that beat him at state also won in a conduct of chapter meetings contest and chose to do that contest at nationals. So I got to have some fun with that today a little bit. So Chris will also be representing Team Minnesota in the Creek competition coming up. So we had 3 proficiency winners, Ava Peters in poultry, Isaac Palachek in wildlife management, and then also Sam Connolly in forest management products. And basically what that is it takes, you do a portfolio based on some work that you do outside of the classroom. You keep track of skills obtained and money earned and invested, and that's how you're awarded those opportunities. So they judge them statewide, and they come up with winners off of that. So overall, a great convention for us. Our behavior is always exemplary down there, and I know Mr. Schroeder's had the opportunity to go on a couple of those on the state and national level, so he understands kind of the impact of those conventions. But I can't thank our staff at Grand Rapids High School enough for their flexibility, being as active as a chapter as we have. They've got got to flex a little bit for those students. And fortunately, we've got a lot of great students that are able to make up the work and continue their, our Osser team, averages a 3.75 GPA, so they get the job done in the classroom. So it's good to see that, but it takes a flexible staff and obviously a supportive administration, and of course, also from the school board and superintendent as well. So I'd like to thank you guys as well for that support. We can't have that type of performance without everybody kind of involved. So again, appreciate your time. Any questions?
Thanks for your positive leadership, Sean. It is very impressive to watch the FFA students, perform. And if you ever want to see a bunch of well-mannered, respectful kids, look at those kids in the blue jackets.
Congratulations to the students and to you.
Yeah, it's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you, Sean.
Next up on the agenda, Health Services Indicator Report, Jamie Goodwin.
All right, good evening. I'm new to this. Bear with me. Thank you. Sorry, kind of new. Okay. Thank you guys for having me. I'm really excited to get to talk about the nursing squad. They're a great group of ladies. I mean, they work really hard. They're doing a great job. We've had a great year. It's really nice to be I made my little PowerPoint like going up. Feel like we're coming out from, some hard years. So it's looking good. All right. This is our crew. We're represented in each building. Some places maybe you wouldn't think we'd have a nurse. In our Quest program, Katie Hansen's out there working with our students in a really unique capacity. It's pretty cool. Where else? ECSE, we're busy there too. We have a one-on-one nurse in our East building that's working with one of our more fragile students. And we do still have placement at St. Joe's. So we're kind of everywhere. All right. And then I was just talking about our mission statement. I really do like the mission statement. I think it pairs incredibly well with nursing and with what we do. I think it's just a well-rounded approach. I don't know. When I went to college at St. Ben's, that was one of the focuses that they had was, holistic healing, holistic taking care of people. And I think that plays really well with just the whole lifelong thing for our kids. All right. I listed out some of the things that we're trained to do, pretty, basic stuff, but you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised what we do in a day. It's not just Band-Aids and ice packs. I know. I see the t-shirts. They're cute, but we really are busy. We really are doing more impactful things than I think most people realize. Some of my favorite parts of this year have been interviewing people, to come onto the team and explain what we do and watch their eyes go, "You're kidding. You're kidding." We were weeding through a couple candidates at the beginning of the year for our middle school spot. And one lady's like, "I'm just looking to kind of slow down as a nurse." And I went, "That's nice. That's nice. All right, good." But yeah, wasn't the right fit. So anyway, we do a lot of things. There's a wide variety from, doing our preschool screenings to, doing our, working right in there with our IEPs, with our individual health plans. We're really getting a little more complex. I mean, we have G-tube feedings, I think, almost in every building. We have diabetics are way on a rise, in our seizure kiddos too. We're just seeing more and more. All right. So again, basic stuff where we're seeing, where we're working with them. We have an impact on, well over 4,000 kids. Again, it's big, it's wide. We feel it sometimes. There's a lot of cute little nuggets running around. I just threw out some of our visual data just to kind of glance over here. Some of the smaller pieces of pie, our seizure piece of pie and our diabetic piece of pie, I want to say take up the bulk of our time. The care plans are complex. The time needed per student is high and complex. The higher severity, the dangerous, the more seriousness of it is there. So our attention is there, our focus is there. Overall, yes, these are healthy kids that are in school running around, but they do have some complex things coming behind them. This is just a general visual again on our health office visits. Again, we are busy. We're probably the only people, that actually document how many kids are coming to see us. So we can really pay attention to these numbers and we can kind of see. It's actually been a helpful thing too with some of our kids that like to use the nurse's office to escape when they need a break. So we can kind of, gauge that very well just by running our reports on campus and seeing, who is coming really frequently. You can see the middle school still is our winner on numbers of visits. Just pieced out the last couple years, we had big changes moving our kids out of the smaller elementaries into our two bigger East and West campuses. So I'm kind of just sticking with that data so it makes sense. East and West are busy. There's a lot of movement there. The nurses there, doubled their caseloads in just 1 year and they kept running. They're still running. And I just can't speak highly enough for them. No complaining. They just keep going and they do an amazing job. You can see our visits are pushing up to 10,000 at our two bigger elementaries. And the high school is rocking. It's rocking too. Okay. What are we seeing in the health offices? Yes, I did put a little dramatic picture. I did. Sometimes we joke about it. It does feel, we do have days like that where we're like, what is happening? Most of our days are pretty methodical. We kind of can understand what we're going to see. We just are very busy. Like I said, most students are attending school without their basic needs being met. They visit the nurse, that's their parents. I've had, if I could count on, I had $1 for each one, I'd be doing okay. But parents who say, you know what, I know you're having some really weird things go on, go see the nurse, instead of going into the doctor. It's a nice triage piece for parents. We see it all the time. I'm like, whoa, things come through the door and you're just immediately on the phone. But like I said, more complex stuff is coming. We have our first student with a trach up in Big Fork. So that's been an interesting new piece we've added. We're just always learning. We're always making new things, new plans, new progress things. And our days are busy. All right. Then we're just kind of going over some of our successes, just crunching some of the numbers. Again, campus allows us to write these reports. We can pull reports. I can see, how many things we've billed for. I can see how many health assessments we've done. Health assessments are kind of a rising thing. Those are done with each of our SPED students when they reeval with their IEP. They take a couple hours and somehow we're working those into our day. As we have 800 SPED kids that are getting reevaluated usually every 3 years. But personally, I think, how many did we do? Close to 400 this year. And we can bill for those. And we are also doing a lot of supervising and billing for, and bringing in revenue for our district, both with our RN services and our health services, our health visits, and then, like I said, supervising. Just more things about other things that I think have been really positive. Again, our numbers are high. We're doing really great things. We actually did our first 2-day training as a group last year, overnight training on mental health things. It's been just helpful. We're pushing a lot of training this year, more and more online things, just utilizing those staff development dollars and really amping up on how we can work with kids. I do have to touch on COVID, I suppose. It's been nice and quiet. It's been a great year. The big thing, we still do what we recommend, what we recommended last year, the same guidelines. However, the big changes are we do not have to track it like we did. Like, honestly, tracking and processing a positive student or staff was taking up to about 4 hours back in the day when we were having to do it for each one. It was a lot. It was a lot of work. So this has been a great change that we can just once a week. As the LSN, I'm reporting to the state, just letting them know how many positive students, how many positive staff. That's basically it. I just got a notice today. They want us to continue it again next year. So I was surprised. I thought we were baby stepping kind of out of that too, but they do want a little bit more reporting. But overall, minimal, can't complain. We have not had any concerns with staffing or student absences due to COVID. We haven't even had to talk about anything, about any concerns that I'm aware of. So it seemed like it was a good year for that. All right, challenges. Right off the bat, the nursing department did have a couple big challenges. First one, Mr. Gross was wonderful enough to assist me with. We had a new vaccination for our seniors. It was a brand new thing for this year, starting this year. The word had been sent out at the end of last school year, but it just wasn't enough information. I'm thinking we had over 200 at the beginning of the year. We had over 200 seniors who were like, "What?" And nobody had had their shot, and nobody knew what was going on. So it's just a state regulation, and we take that seriously too. So we pushed hard, but it wasn't a fun thing. As you know, vaccination isn't a fun word right now. So we had to carefully, like I said, under Mr. Gross's guidance, we came through really well with that. Just not being aggressive, but being, this is the information. I partnered right away with the clinic. We set up some extra shot sessions. They opened up the vaccination clinic for us when our students were on break. They would triple book. We could set up appointment. It really went well. So the whole community kind of came together on that one. That was nice. But a fun surprise when I started my job. On August 30th. Like, oh no. One more challenge. The ALC was concerned they were feeling they needed to have more nursing support. We have not traditionally had a nurse out there, monitoring the students, and they were kind of floating a little bit in our stratosphere. So we tightened that up, and we are working really hard to fix that and make them feel more supported. Set up a couple processes, set up the ALC nursing support guide, and I came up with an idea to do a nurse Zoom station. So we set up their own nursing station out there, and I frequently Zoom with them whenever they have a concern, and it's worked out really well. I think, our numbers are up on that. I think they feel a little more supported and feel better about it. And then finally, the changes recommendations. I'm just thinking about next year already. I'm thinking about more how to fine tune things, stream things, and the services that we do, the vision and hearing services. It's a huge service we do our district, and I'd really like to fine tune that, pull that together. We are finding deficits. During COVID, we weren't able to do a lot of it. So we're 3 years behind, and we are picking up the ball. On a side note, some of our equipment was from 1974. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's as old as me. That's so old. So I thought, we did find some funds. Actually, Community Ed, bless their hearts, is actually purchasing some new audiometer equipment for us. So we're gonna hit the ground running. Got some new fun ideas for how to do this with the smallest footprint. I know that academics has been a big thing too, with not interrupting the school day, but yet doing this important service. So things like that. We are continuing to work on the process of training our staff, training our busing staff, our transportation staff to some of the more medical things that we're doing. So, and we're taking that very seriously. That was, again, a piece that was kind of glassy for me. And I'm realizing, we're handing medications, we're handing things to our bus group. So we need to tighten that up. I'd like to look into finding grants, more money for CPR training, choking, rescue training, for things like that. We've noticed that there's a little bit of a concern. Our staff are monitoring our kids eating lunch. We should be really fine tuning on how to keep that area safe. And then just more overall general training, suicide prevention, and medical concerns for vaping. I think I'm going to tackle a little bit more on that and see if we can work with our students who are struggling with those types of addictions. That's it. Those are my hopes and dreams. Any questions for me tonight?
That was awesome, Jamie.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
Jamie, looking at your numbers,
Mhm.
it says you served 4,384 students. I would assume that there must be students from out of our district as well that's in that mix, because I think our student population is what?
It could be higher. Yeah, I
38 or
was pulling my
39?
numbers from the ones that I had listed earlier. It felt low to me a little bit. Last year's number, Angela had put, it was like 5,000. She had it right around there. So I'm like, am I missing a piece? I had the homeschool in there. There could be, you are right, there could be more.
The St. Joe's,
Okay,
the new Christian school,
school.
the ALC, some of those students, so all those students are kids that we service at some
Okay.
point.
Mhm.
We talked about our student population, and here's an area where it's up, but yet over here's the area where we're talking about. So thank you. That's what I was trying to get at.
It's a wide variety. It is.
Yeah.
And we're seeing things, yeah, at each campus. We really are.
And then the medications, that's
It's
a pretty crazy
surprising.
number.
It is surprising. I know.
8944 last school year, and we're up to 105 this school year.
It's
How many
rocking.
students does that involve?
Quite a few. We see the bulk of it, the middle school and the high school. Our elementary is not as much, but it's still surprising there too. A lot of the meds are behavior meds. They're tools. A lot of our students need a bump, at noon. They need a bump to make it through the day. We're seeing behaviors on the bus. So we're doing some behavior meds. That's the bulk of what I would say we're seeing at the middle school. We also do a lot of morning meds. And again, it's a tool to help them in their academic day. Their parent, I always think sometimes the apple doesn't fall far. They need their ADHD meds, but their parents have ADHD and they're not getting them at home. So we set it up so that they get them every morning with us at school. So it just helps their day.
Just a clarification on that, the meds that we are dispensing are medication or prescriptions that the parents bring in and ask us to help.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, that's a great question. Nope, everything is brought in by the parent. It's mandatory that it's brought in by the parent. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great report.
Mr. Chair and members of the board, I think, this is another one of those areas where schools have stepped in to meet a broader need of our community, of our families. I think, Jamie's right. Our health services staff, a lot of times are viewed as a clinic or a triage or healthcare, maybe a free healthcare. And they do that, provide that service with a smile, but it's an added layer of things that our schools have stepped up to help with. And, we're grateful for people like Jamie and her staff that step into that role.
Yeah, it's a big role. It is a good role. And with the meds too, there is an increase. You can see from even last year to the year before. I was curious. I don't know the reasons, but a lot of parents had to be the teacher during COVID, maybe struggled, saw the things the teachers maybe had been complaining about and went, oh my, yeah, we really do struggle with focusing more than I ever guessed. I just was curious if that was part of it, because we are seeing an increase in that type of med.
Jamie, I want to extend congratulations to you. And please pass along to all the staff that you work with. Every time I've encountered nurses in the buildings, the interactions that these people are having with students are so professional and so caring. It's really a privilege to see a consistency across our entire district with the work that's being done. And I hope you'll share our appreciation with.
I will. I absolutely will. They're wonderful. I can't, like I said, speak highly enough about them. And it's just a pleasure to support and be there for them. They work really hard.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. At this point, we're going to adjourn the work session, and we will start the regular board meeting in a minute or two.
I know, I had Griffin's old coat in the back of the car, I drove out, like, I didn't care.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It went out to business.
Yeah, I suppose. That's where she went. She was here for our, she did a story on our testing clinic.
At this point, we'll call the regular meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Julie, did we have any additional signups for public input? Okay. At this point, we're looking for a motion to approve the amended agenda with the additions of items 6A, 6B, and the removal of item 6G.
Mr. Chair, I would like to have 6A and B removed. I'm not sure if you need a motion by that, and send it to our workshop next Monday for further discussion. So if I can move that to do that.
Okay, do we have a second for that?
I would second.
Okay, discussion.
Well, I know it's, Mr. Chair, I know it's an add-on tonight, and I just saw it now. I looked at the agenda last week and it wasn't on there. I see it now. And I guess just some discussions on why I know when this project was put together, there was no talk of doing any borrowing on it. Just want a little better understanding on why we're going in this direction and why the turn on it. So the other piece of it is that I think when we're talking about borrowing and we're doing an add-on, I think it warrants some discussion before we bring it forward for a vote. So.
Any other discussion? All in favor of removing those items from the agenda? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion passes to remove those two items from the agenda. We still need a motion to approve the rest of the agenda.
So
Moved by Pat,
Second.
second by Mindy. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved with the removal of items 6A, B, and G. First item on the agenda, under safe and welcoming learning environment, we have a principal's report from East Rapids Elementary. Bruce Goodwin.
Testing. Mrs. Goodwin is a natural, and we tried to talk her into doing this for us.
It's a tough act to follow.
First off, thank you, Superintendent Matt Gross and the school board for giving us a chance to give you an update on East Rapids and our journey through this school year. Our first BLLT team meeting last August was centered around goals for this school year. We spent a lot of time on our first area on our teaching and learning model, and that is the environment for learning. The foundational piece and the belief by myself, Dr. Siegley, is that before we can move the needle on every area in our teaching and learning model, we have to have the foundational stone of relationships built and create an environment of rapport and respect for our students and our staff. It's a priority and continues to be a priority at East Rapids Elementary School. And as we worked through that first bullet point there, and we had foundational pieces around that, we then started crucial conversations around our other bullet points, standards and curriculum, our evidence-based practices, and our data for learning. This year, we, as a principal team, leadership team, spent a lot of time in PD working on being better educational leaders in all of those areas. And in those areas that we knew, because we knew that best practices to bring back to our BLLT team and build initiatives, build goals, lay foundations, plant seeds around the direction that we want to go as a school. Our goals, they started out, we tried to keep them as simple as we could, but as we got more into the school year, we found that our goals were tweaked, modified, revisited, recommunicated, talked about some more, and a lot of learning took place for us as leaders and for our school as a whole, as our BLLT team. So it was an exciting process, and it's just an exciting process to continue moving forward. It takes a village. I referenced this in some of my other presentations, and I couldn't believe that more than I do right now. You'll see two numbers as we looked at this slide and bringing this to life. There's two numbers. Our current count of our school year, of our student body, is 674. When you access our data on EduClimber, the number is 725. And the question was asked as we moved was, why is there a discrepancy between those two numbers? And the story is that we have students come through our door from the start of the year till now, and some of them leave and some of them go and all those things. Currently, we're at 674, but East Rapids Elementary impacted 725. Each one of those students have a story. Each one of those students deserve the best that we can give them. You'll notice our next number is 547, and that is our free and reduced student population. And what that represents is a giant group of students who, based on the data that we have and the experiences that we have from day to day, that those students have a lot of need that come with them. It's hard to articulate that. Some of that need shows up in our office discipline referrals. Approximately 80% of our discipline referrals come from that number 547. It's a large number that we look at and problem solve in our various teams. Our school pantry, this number was provided to us today by our student support specialist, Mrs. Connolly. Our school pantry provided food for 2,800 students for the months of January and February. Now, we don't have 2,800 students. And I asked that question, how is that possible? And the answer is, these are multiple acts of giving by our school in a way I don't see in the office. Our teachers are representing students, parents, and family members are accessing our school supports to be supported at home through that system. And what that represents is our school being a place that's yes, primarily about educating at a high level, but it's also providing the basic needs that kids need to learn. You'll see on this slide, it articulates the supports that we give for students that are struggling on a day-to-day basis in our school. And I think it's important for me to read because it's important to hear all the supports that we give for our students. Our assistant principal. It's hard to articulate everything that the assistant principal does in the school unless you see and do what I've had the privilege of being in that position to see what that person does. Dr. Siegley has done so much for our school, and the phrase that I used today when we were meeting was the no-see-ums. The things that you can't articulate, things that you can't quantify, the things that you can't see on a day-to-day basis, but you know what's happening. And I watched that as I watched Mrs. Connolly and Dr. Siegley talking about a student today. The stuff that you just cannot, you can't put words into to express how much is done there between that relationship. Our MTSS coordinators, our North Home staff, our school nurses, our Anishinaabe staff, our student support specialists, school psychologists, TOSAs, our teachers, our truancy prevention specialists, school resource officers, and all the other support caregivers. Again, the story here is it takes a village. There are students who utilize 6 or more of these educational supports as part of their tier two school plan. As I read that to you, I'm visualizing students right now that don't qualify for special education services, but they need support. And the supports that we are able to offer them are getting them through each and every day of school. Because sending them home isn't the answer. Keeping them at school is. Coordination needs to happen for all of this to happen, for all this to take place and be effective at a high level. It's my job, Dr. Siegley's job, to make sure that all of this is happening so that we can support kids the best possible way that we know how. Staff support. This week is Teacher Appreciation Week, and we are working very hard to show our teachers this week how much we truly believe in them, respect what they do, and appreciate everything that they bring for our students and what they're doing. But it goes so much deeper than that. Our belief, our leadership model at East Rapids is that people feel supported, they're heard, they feel like they belong, they have high expectations, they know the direction that they're going, that they feel success, that they feel a part of something bigger than themselves, and they give themselves permission to find the humor. Now you'll see in that picture, it's not very good because I couldn't find a camera in the gymnasium to catch everybody. But this particular staff meeting was all of the staff, all 101 staff of East Rapids Elementary. And we were in a big circle in the gymnasium. And each staff shared what they wanted to see in a high functioning school and what they wanted to see in our climate. And they wrote that down and put it on the buffalo rug in the middle. And it was, what was so powerful about that circle was that there was no leader in that circle, that circle represents that we all have an equal power, an equal say, and an equal effect for students. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Siegley right now.
As Bruce has been talking about here in the last slide about the support of our teachers, we have a strong belief that when we support our teachers and and they feel that way through the things that Bruce was just talking about, that those things in turn translate to the students. We had a leadership team meeting right after school today, and our initial question that we asked was for each of our leadership team members to think about a student in their life that had impacted them to a certain degree that they would dedicate the rest of their school year to. It was a very emotional question, emotional time. But at the end of the day, we know what our role is here. And we also know that we have impact well beyond what we see in numbers. What we're going to talk about next is student numbers and the things that we're proud of, things that we can work on. But at the end of the day, everybody within our schools are just so much more than that. At East right now, we're roughly 675, 674 students. Those are our students receiving Tier 1 core instruction. Every kid in our building, the goal is to receive high quality education at the Tier 1 level. From the beginning of the year now, we've had 288 students receive reading Tier 2 and Tier 3 instruction. Our Tier 2 instruction comes in the form of title, ADSYS. Tier 3 also happens where some students are receiving additional interventions, so kind of like a double dip of interventions. We've had 60 students receiving interventions in math. Right now, we have currently 123 students that are receiving special education services, and those are students that do not fall under the only speech category. So by the numbers, if we were thinking about a Tier 1 instruction, really, that's something that we've been working on incredibly hard over the last 3 years, and it's something that we want to continue to work on. Interventions alone isn't enough to help kids achieve. We need to have strong Tier 1 instruction happening in our classrooms. The first bar graphs, you'll see there will be a set of 3 numbers. That's our kindergarten numbers. Winter 2020 is the far left. The middle is at 54% is in 2021. And the far right is at 75%. So what that is saying is that those are different cohorts of kids. So each kindergarten group over the last 3 years. What we're really, really proud of is 75% of our kindergarten kiddos were on track compared to 2 years ago where they were a different cohort was at 38%. So what does that tell us? It tells us that we have beefed up our Tier 1 instruction, particularly with Orton Gillingham. Our kindergarten teachers are rocking it. They're awesome. And you walk from room to room and they know what they're doing. They've been given the professional development that they need. There's confidence in what they're doing and they're working together. You'll see that also happening in our first grade, and that's our early reading numbers as well from 2020 to 2022. You'll see 2020 was at 34%, and this year that cohort of kids is at 56% on track. Another piece to this is the interventions that are happening. And we have a really strong system of interventions right now. And we really believe early intervention is the key to getting our kids on track to where they need to go. Fluency is a big deal in 2nd and 3rd grade. You'll see some similar numbers. What I would encourage you to look at is the pink, particularly the dark pink. Our 2nd grade in 2020, we had 60% of our students that were at some risk or high risk in fluency. And that's compared to our group this year in 2022 that decreased to 46%. So we can find some success there. And the same with our 2nd graders on the far right. And then finally, here's our 4th and 5th grade data from the last 3 years, winter screening. And one of the things I'd like to highlight here is it's as kids get older, it gets a little more difficult to move them from one category to another. And that speaks to our need for really strong tier 1 instruction. And I've said that a few times, and I'll continue to say it. We started talking about using benchmark achievement level descriptors this year. That's something that now is on teachers' radar. We will continue to use that to help drive what we're doing in the classroom, along with using data really to look at what is working and what isn't working. The first time that we gave a report this year, we talked about our office discipline referrals. Our goal was to beef up our referrals in a way that teachers were had a more friendly way to use a referral process. We have seen success in that. So carrying over into our next year, what we're really hoping to do is talk about what does office managed behavior referrals look like versus what does classroom managed referrals, or what do classroom managed behavior look like. And that's gonna be something that will be ongoing. What has been very positive that we've seen is we're identifying students that need support. It goes back to what Bruce talked about earlier. Something that we are incredibly proud of is that 93% of our students have received 0 to 3 discipline referrals. So we have amazing kids that are being respectful, responsible, safe, and kind every single day. Every day. And you can see that huge bar on the far left. That represents those students. Each one of those little dots is one of our students. What we're also proud of, if you look off to the right, those are our students with a higher level of behavior referrals. Those students go through our DART process. We have interventions, things happening for every single one of those kids. Check and connect opportunities are happening. They're working with our student support specialists. They're working with the 2 of us. We believe that we don't have a whole lot of kids slipping through the cracks. And that's a really, really important thing.
As a couple things, I want to go back real quick to these slides. As we're working with instruction, and our belief and our need is for students to read well by 3rd grade. So a lot of our support mechanism are focused for K1, 2, and as they get older, that kind of drops off. So as we move forward with the knowledge that we have, which I feel like we are at the cutting edge, and we are doing some great things that I've never experienced before. We're seeing that moving through the grades right now. We're living that. So we're going to see these numbers change. These pinks are our hope, our belief, our need is these pinks shrink dramatically. So that's our mission. And going back to this, on a day-to-day basis, staff, we can get frustrated sometimes with the behaviors that we're seeing and the need for helping students, but it's super important for us to reconnect with this visual, because when I first saw this visual through EduClimber, it really brings it home that the vast majority of our students are doing it, and the other ones are working on it. They're all working hard. Not a child on that screen is not working to improve. There's so many successes. We could be here all night long. Right away at the beginning of the year, there was a need for some changes in our routines. It was glaringly obvious. I'm not a reinvent the wheel type of guy. I got Dr. Siegley coming in from West. I know West is doing great things. Let's see what they're doing. Let's make some changes that fit for us. And that's what we did. And right off the bat, from our routines for end of the day, drop off and pick up, our PBIS routines, morning routines, we made changes, worked through our BLLT team, our PBIS team, pick the things that would work for us, and the building and our routines have seen some real success. Our BLLT team today was a prime example at our meeting, how we work together collaboratively, and to see the interactions between teachers and us in that team it's a super cool thing to experience as leaders. And the teammates, they're doing a great job, and we're having some great conversations about places that we need to go and things that we need to do. We had a goal this year of trying to have a family night every month. We fell short right here at the end, but most every month this winter we had one night dedicated to families, and really all it was let's get them through the door. Well, one night we had food, others we didn't. Rolled out the basketballs, just engaging families in our school, super important. Our reduced ODRs through our PBIS efforts. This month, we've really seen a drastic decrease in our ODRs. It's super cool to see a lot of the work that we've been putting in and seeing that come to fruition with our students. We had a building climate survey this year, and out of that survey, some real needs by staff for things that we can improve on, things that we needed to work together on. The message is we can't do it alone. We need your help. And our staff heard that message, and our school is a better place because of it. Our universal screening, our screening windows open right now. Our staff are working hard to make sure that they're on top of screening students, knowing where they're at, making adjustments, seeing where we need to help kids and making it happen. And there's so much more. I mean, it's just awesome. What we've learned, the communication, over communicate. We need to communicate with everything that we do so everybody understands the direction we're going and the milestones that we need to hit. We've learned that students of today are different. They're different from 3 years ago. Kids now, they see the world different, and we need to, as adults and educators, make those adjustments to meet their needs. Teamwork, not just in our grade level teams, teamwork as a building. We're all, like referencing that other slide, we're all in this together. Efficiency, working together, taking care of ourselves is super important for our staff and ourselves to take care. If we're not good, we're not going to be good for kids. Balancing urgency with realism. It's important that we have important work that needs to happen and needs to get done, but we also have to have realistic expectations around that. So finding that balancing act, that balance is important, and just being mindful of everything. Next year, the budget effects are real. Class sizes are going up. We're losing 2 sections at East Rapids. It's going to affect many areas. We're also losing a full-time assistant principal. It's going to be tough, but it's not going to be an excuse to fail. We're going to continue working hard. We're going to work together. We're going to find new ways to make things happen. We will do that because that's the mindset we have at East, is we can overcome the obstacles to make sure that we're the best that we can for our kids. I believe that to my core. One last thing on this slide. I want to just shout out to Dr. Stiegley here. He is going back to his classroom next year, but this is a temporary reassignment because this man is a gifted leader, and I can't wait for him to return in some capacity in our district. I can't say enough. It's been awesome. Again, we will be great. There is no doubt. And I have a riddle. Just have to. So this is a student riddle from this week. What is the hottest place in your house? The corner. It's 90 degrees. Huh? You knew that. All right, one last thing. I do have an update of our Anishinaabe program experiential learning site. There's a lot of site, we're in phase 1 and that's site prep. Last fall, the city of Grand Rapids put an approach in and did some initial clearing of trees. Today I met with a logger. I met with the city a week ago, talking about what the process for permitting is and that kind of thing. But I met with a logger today, and there's a lot of trees that need to come out of there before we can do anything else. And there's a lot of storm damage too. So he'll be getting back to me on when he can do that. He thinks that he can do that pretty soon. While that's happening, we do have an architect working on the design layout, and I was really hoping to have a drawing for you guys today, but he's just not quite ready with that. But if you can envision, it's going to be 4 seasonal learning areas centered around a central pavilion. And those seasonal learning activities will be the 4 directions centered around wild ricing, sugar bushing, winter activities. So we're moving forward with that, but it's not moving as fast as I wanted to, but it is moving forward. And today's meeting with the logger was good. So looking forward to see what happens when he gets to work on those trees. So that's my update on that. Any questions?
What's the timeline for opening the Anishinaabe?
I told the logger today, because he asked that very question. I want to have all of our stuff that we currently have.
Yep.
I want to be able to start using that site by next fall.
Wow,
What that exactly looks like, I don't know, but that's my goal.
that's ambitious.
It is.
Any other comments or discussion?
I would
Nice
just,
job.
yeah, I would just say thank you for being such good reflective leaders and being nimble and adaptable and adjusting. I mean, that's impressive. That's an impressive leadership quality. So thank you both for that. And Ryan, they're going to love you back in the classroom, but we are going to miss you. Thank you. Thank you for being the utmost professional that you are.
Thank you, Ryan and Bruce.
Yes.
Next item on the agenda, approve the minutes of the April 17th regular school board meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Pat,
Second.
second by Melissa. Discussion.
I would note that Ben Hawkins and I were not at that meeting, so we need to change that in the final version.
So we will amend that. Any other discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes with those changes?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is to approve the FY24 district budget reduction program.
In your packet, thank you, Mr. Chair, your packet included a list of the reductions for the fiscal 24 budget. This isn't necessarily something that's absolutely required that we do, because these reductions will essentially show up in the budget that you would approve for fiscal 24 in June. But thought it would be good to lay this out in this kind of a format so it's clear what it is that is on the list. This is consistent with what has been shared with you previously in meetings and going back to February. I'm not going to take the time to read everything in here. A couple things that I'd maybe just highlight, I guess. As Bruce indicated, the reductions are going to result in higher class sizes and reduction in opportunities. Included in here, we have a number of cuts to classroom and teaching positions. I think there's a total of 11, a little over 11 FTEs and licensed teachers. That comes from across the spectrum of really childhood, actually, all the way up through senior high. The reductions impacted all buildings and most areas. teachers, paras, secretaries, administration, activities, special education. Some of what's in here is following through on things that the district said that it would do. There's some that are reflective of selling property and getting rid of excess buildings, reducing lease costs. That were, again, things that the community was told that we would do. Some of in here is going to require the reset of expectations. Staff. Some of the positions will result in staff being having to adjust expectations or else support. We just heard from Bruce talking about an assistant principal not being there. That's going to be real. Staff are going to feel that. We have one less technician. Staff are going to feel that. That's going to mean slower response time. Things like that are going to show up, and so expectations will have to change. Our community will have to change its expectations in some cases, in terms of response, in terms of our enrollment process. Again, inter-district transfer letters went out. People are having to reapply to have their kids go to a school different than the one that they live in. And so we're hoping to honor as many of those as we can, but we're not promising that we'll be able to. Some other programs that were significant, our Spanish program at our middle schools, obviously a significant program to lose. And so, but when we're looking at the context of things that we're required to do by the state of Minnesota and things that we would prefer to do or want to do, just didn't fit into that dynamic. So a lot on here. The target was to be in that $2.4 million range. This represents that. And, I guess I'll answer the questions if you have any.
I'd ask first for a motion to approve the district FY24 reduction program.
So
Moved by Pat,
Second.
second by David. Discussion or questions?
Mr. Chair and Matt, this is really all about balancing our budget through it. And I realize there's a lot of staff in here. There's some non-staff related issues, and it looks like you and your administrative team have made cuts in all areas of the district to get our budget balanced. And when you're talking over 2.4 million in cuts, I appreciate the work that went into this. I understand the difficulty on the other side of it, but I think we all realized that this year was going to be the tough year and when the pain was really going to be felt internally as well as externally. And I know we've all had questions from the public in regards to the cuts being made, and I'm sure we'll have more going forward. But again, not to be repetitive, this is all about getting our budget balanced so that we can become healthy again going forward. So again, I appreciate the work on one side. On the flip side, I appreciate the anxiety of staff and the programs that are being cut as well. So thank you for the work.
Any further comments or questions?
I would
Dave?
echo that. Thank you for the hard work done in making these. This is a heartbreaking list. This is an absolutely gut-wrenching list that none of us likes to face, but we have the responsibility to face it, and we have to do it. And thank you for doing the work to make it happen.
Mr. Chair, I would just add, there's a great deal of speculation about what's happening legislatively. Today, our conference committees start meeting to discuss school funding, and we will probably hear a narrative about school funding this spring that doesn't accurately reflect the experience of ISD 318 or the other school districts in the state. This legislative session cannot undo 20 years of underfunding. They can't do it. And so any narrative about fully funding schools or schools being made whole does not accurately reflect what's been happening. The data doesn't support it. And so while we're grateful for a legislature that is putting money into education, it's one of the two things that our state requires in its constitution. It won't make up for that huge deficit that's still there at the state level, I think, in terms of being behind, and also it won't do enough to address the deficit that we have in our school district. We're going to need to continue to work on our budget. We're going to need community support. And even with, new money coming from the state, putting the large mandates aside that are also coming with that are going to diminish the impact of that, we're going to be right here again unless we can get additional revenue. So we'll be working on planning for that in the future, but this legislative session isn't going to fix our concerns. It's not going to fix the concerns of the other districts in the state, and we're going to see a lot of districts make reductions this spring because of decades of underfunding.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve the FY24 district budget reduction program, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, it'd be okay if I'm excused. My daughter's got her basketball.
You bet. You bet. Next item on the agenda is a consent agenda. Casey?
Good evening, board. Tonight on the consent agenda, we have Janae Custer, food and nutrition replacement hire, Jordan Newberg, teacher replacement hire, and Shelley Schwartz, food and nutrition retirement. Shelley has served in the district for 21 years. I'm recommending approval of the consent agenda.
Looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved
Second.
by Mindy,
Second.
second by Melissa. There is no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item on the agenda, Casey, approve the involuntary FTE reduction for the Big Fork Activities Director.
This item was on the budget reductions that you just approved, but this particular contract does require a little bit longer notice period, so you're seeing this item separate. There is a reduction from a 0.3 FTE to a 0.15 FTE recommended for the Big Fork Activities Director. I'm recommending approval.
Looking for a motion to approve the reduction.
So moved, David.
Moved by David. Second.
Second.
Second by Mindy. Any discussion?
This is one of those positions where we added about 4 years ago, that used to be under the principal's unit. And so Principal Patro used to hold that. So this position has been in the budget for about 3 or 4 years at this point in time at a 0.35. So just more for folks to see the extent of how long that position has been there and what the responsibilities were the principals previously.
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Casey.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda, board reports. I don't believe we have either of our student representatives here tonight. Anybody want to start?
I can start, Mr.
Go
Chair.
ahead, Pat.
I know it's been talked about, just a shout out to our teaching staff, Teacher Appreciation Week this week, and appreciate the great work that they're doing with our students, and some of it was showcased tonight here at East Elementary. So thank you to them for the work that they're doing. Also, just a little shout out to Lily Danielson. She made it to state in speech out of the Big Fork School. She's a senior there, and I'm not going to say, I know she didn't come out number one at the state, but I think it was something less than that.
Yeah.
But just getting there, as I always said, is a great task in itself. So congratulations to Lily on that. David and I did the Children's Fair this weekend. I want to thank Julie for the setup, and Melanie and Paulie for coordinating the meals. They were a big hit. I think we were calculating, 875, maybe 900 meals, bag lunches we handed out.
Wow.
To the students. It was great, some good conversation, and and I correct me if I'm wrong here, Julie or David, I was impressed by the kids that thanked us for the meal that we gave them. That was really, it was kind of highlight for me, to be honest with you. I mean, you think that kids aren't attuned to saying thank you and please and so on. That was really, it was real touching in that. So thank you, Julie. Thank you, Paulie. Thank you, Melanie, for coordinating all of that. And then last meeting, I talked about Paul Peltier, our new executive director for Rams. We approved his contract last Thursday. He's officially hired. I signed the contract as chair of the board yesterday. He was down from Boston, signed the contract. I signed, he signed. His start date is July 1st. And one of his to-do tasks that he'd like to do is travel the district, if you will. When I say the district, Taconite Relief District, to attend all the members' respective board meetings and introduce himself and talk about kind of his visions and goals going forward at Rams. So pretty exciting time there at Rams. And as I mentioned, he's a Grand Rapids graduate, grew up in Balsam, Minnesota, and coming to us here. He's still a little undecided on where he's going to live. He was here this weekend looking at homes, and I'll just say east and west, and hasn't been lucky yet to find one, unfortunately. So that's all I had, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Pat.
I don't have anything.
Mindy, no. David?
Yeah, I just want to, I see two of our FFA students are here, and just wanted to note that Sean Linder talked about the success that the FFA had earlier in this evening's meeting, and congratulations to you, and I just wanted to acknowledge your presence here tonight. Thank you. Had a chance to spend some time at East for kindergarten roundup. It was great to see all the little people coming in. What a joy. What a kickoff. Mark, you and I had the opportunity to sign documents for the Murphy School closing, which now effectively gets Murphy School off the school's list. It goes to Kutaska. So it's no longer a facility, which is part of the agreement that we've had with the community all along. Saw the GRHS drama performance this past weekend. Putnam County Spelling Bee was a great production. A lot of enthusiasm, a lot of excellence by our students. Poke my nose in for West Elementary Parents Night this past weekend. Great celebration fundraiser for West Elementary. That was great. And today, the endowment, ISD 318 endowment, had a recognition for our Teacher Appreciation Week and brought donuts and cookies and various treats to all the buildings by way of saying thank you from the endowment for our teachers, and a well-deserved recognition. And the Boys and Girls Club has hired a new director for our program, and I'll have a chance to get additional information on that later.
Thank you. Melissa?
We've done a couple of teacher negotiation meetings, still just kind of setting ground rules and laying out what each group is just willing to work on and what's on the table. And then we have also had a number of IS meetings around contracts. And so like many other folks, they too are going through some significant cuts due to funding. And it's all kind of tied together, Kutaska, Boys and Girls, I mean, everybody's being stretched. And so there's a lot of tension, right, in the system serving kids. And so just recognizing that we are not in a unique situation and that everybody around us is really impacted by funding at this point in time. And I'll just end with that. I think that was my realistic plug in the system. Everybody's hurting. Everybody's hurting.
Thank you. For myself, I did attend phase 3 and 4 school board training Friday and Saturday. I was at the West Elementary Kindergarten Roundup, and it is sure fun to watch those little guys come through the door, all the future Thunderhawks, and they're just so excited to come into the school. The one other thing I would mention, I attended the financial briefing Thursday by Google Meet, and that is available online for anybody that would like to go back and see it. And has a lot of really good information about our district financial situation, and would encourage everybody to take a look at that. Something we're going to be needing to think about as we go forward here. We do not have a superintendent's report tonight. Meeting announcements, upcoming school board committee meetings and meeting dates are posted on each agenda. School board meeting agendas can be found on the district website and on the designated posting site at ISD 318 Administration Building. Is there any other business to come before the board? Julie, has anyone else signed up for public input? No? Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you, Mark.